Hello guys and welcome to another video. My name's Mark, I'm an entrepreneur and property investor. I've got about 3.5 million quid's worth of property, and unfortunately to say in this video, I've also got 1.7 million pounds worth of debt. So today we're going to be having a look at these rising interest rates and what it means to me, how that's going to affect me moving forward. So I've put some figures up here, and as we go through the video I'll put some more figures as we talk about it and explore what's going on. Now before we get into anything else, if you like this sort of transparency, give it a subscribe, support costs nothing, and if you don't mind giving it a like, it really does help me out with the YouTube algorithm. That said, let's get into the video and let's talk about these interest rates, because I have just had a quote, and in fact I've had several quotes, around 7% for a limited company, LTV of 60%, mortgage for a HMO, and it is a bit scary. So when we're starting to look at these sort of things, we all know that interest rates are going up. That is in the news. I've done another video recently on that. So what I really want to talk about is what is the outcome for me. Now, at 3%, which is roughly my average, and I just sort of totaled up all my mortgages, and it's about 4,300 quid. So I'm probably just over 3% is my average. £4,250 a month is my current payment on all my properties. That's 13 properties and 1.7 million pounds worth of debt. My new payment, assuming everything came in at 7%, would be £9,916, which is just over £5,500 a month worse off for me. Now, if our lovely Bank of England guy is trying to make me feel a bit poorer, this is gonna help. I'm gonna feel a lot poorer, because my profit, I can tell you, on my property, about 3.5 million quid of property, my rent's about 20 grand, my profit's about 7, 8, 9, depending on the month, you know, depending on the repairs, but somewhere between 7 and 9 grand a month is my profit. It is almost all gone at this point. So what am I starting to think about this? Is property still worth doing? Shall I continue with this channel and shall I keep adding to properties? Well, if I'm honest, right now I'm keeping a bit of cash on the sidelines. I'm trying to insulate myself against this risk. But what I would say is, if I'm getting myself into this position, and I'm not over leveraged, I don't believe that my current state of leverage, let me just work that out, what I am currently at. 1.7, so this is going to take me a second. Oh, stop the recording because it's going to take me ages to figure it out. So that's 48.5%, so under 50% LTV. I don't believe I'm over leveraged at all, and already all of my profit's going to be wiped out. So it's an incredibly risky position for the UK economy to be in, and for buy-to-let landlords, HMO landlords like myself to find ourselves in, because nobody's been forecasting these sort of high rates for a long, long time. In fact, if you look, even at the beginning of this year, you could get the 10-year gilt at less than 1%, I think it was, or maybe it was 1%-ish. It was very, very low. There really is only a few outcomes, and the first one being that rents have to go up. Second one being interest rates have to come down. I mean, that's the only two outcomes. Otherwise, there's going to be a hell of a lot of homeless people who used to rent. So that's not going to be a possibility. I can't see it for 1 second that the government are going to be able to sit back and let everybody become homeless. So it's either going to be interest rates down or rents up, or maybe a mixture of both of those two things. Now, it's not quite as bad as I've made it sound on this, because I'm not going to go £1.7 million of debt from 3% to 7%. That's not going to happen overnight for me. What's going to happen is over time. So I know, for example, in 2023, I have one remortgage coming up, which is about 250,000. So I have got this risk in 2023 of about 250k. In 2024, I've got a significant amount more. I've got about 3 or 4 mortgages and about £500,000. And then in 2025, I've got one big mortgage at 350k. So as you can see, a lot of this is quite a long way away. So I'm going to get the benefit of being able to see what happens and how it all unravels, and then place myself in a strategy that's going to be okay for me for the future. If I talk about my financing strategy, it wasn't really to mitigate this risk at all, but that was always a consequence of what I was doing. And what I was doing was buying a house, adding as much value as I could, or making sure I bought at a discount on a 2-year originally. And then after I'd done it for a 2-year, the next mortgage I put it on is a 5-year. And that's because I've already extracted a lot of the value that I've created or added either by buying cheap or by doing some renovations. Within this 2-year period, I've already extracted all that. So the next opportunity I really have is only when the market's moved enough. Now, I and you know that fees are one of our biggest threats to our wealth. So in order to mitigate those fees, I would then go for a 5-year fixed. So a lot of my properties had the initial renovation done, went onto a 2-year, and then got switched onto a 5-year when it came to getting the money out. And it just so happens for me, a lot of my problems, if they are going to become problems, are going to happen in 2024 to 2027. And in fact, I secured 250 grand's worth of debt on one of my properties in January this year at 3.29%. And I even remember my wife complaining that 3.29% seemed expensive. She wouldn't say that today. So guys, that's a little bit about where I'm at the moment. Am I worried? Yes, I'm not particularly happy about the current state of affairs. Do I believe it will all be okay in the end? Of course. Ultimately, I think either rents go up, interest rates go down. One of those two things has to happen. It can't happen any other way, that loads of people slip into negative equity, people become homeless. I just can't see that being allowed to happen. And if it is, Jesus, we've got some opportunity ahead of us. And God, we've got some content to create, Tom. If there's chaos on the streets, we're going to be able to do some sick B-roll, right? So I don't think that's going to be our reality. I think everything's going to be okay, but what a ride we're on, guys. Let's see what happens. I'm going to secure my next mortgage. I've been offered it at 7%. I haven't got to do it until February next year. I'm going to wait. I'm going to wait until January, see what happens. And then, you know what? If I have to put myself on a variable or something that I can get out of fairly quickly, I will. We were offered a variable, which was Bank of England plus 3%, which I think is pretty reasonable, to be honest. At the moment, that'd be about 5.5%. That would be my preferred product right now. 7% was our 2-year fixed, and it was 7.25% for a 5-year fix. So at the moment, I'd be slightly more towards the variable, but again, let's wait and see. I like to keep optimistic. We'll see what happens with government and policy. But guys, let me know in the comments what's going on with your mortgages. Have you got any debt coming up that you want to let me know about? I'll answer every single one. I'll tell you what I would do. I can't advise you. I don't know your tolerance for risk. There's lots of parameters that I have no idea about. But for me, I'm quite tolerant of risk. I'm quite happy to go into a variable and see what the market does rather than committing to this 7% for 5 years. In fact, I see it more as risk to do that, to be honest. I think there's a greater chance in my mind of interest rates coming down once the Bank of England has successfully, in my opinion, crashed the economy. So let's see what happens. Like and subscribe as always, guys, and we will see you on the next video. Cheers, guys.